This story is also spooky. It's about corruption. It's spooky, but we can't be surprised because banks can be corrupt. Banks can be corrupt. And apparently TD Bank is one of those banks that has been corrupt, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to hear what is happening with TD Bank? TD Bank has been found guilty of a money laundering scheme. Now, the Justice Department has been looking into TD Bank. Let's go ahead and get into this video here from Merrick Garland. This was on C-SPAN. This is crazy. A freaking bank.
And now to the subject of today's announcement. Today, TD Bank pled guilty to multiple felonies, including conspiring to violate the Bank Secrecy Act and commit money laundering. TD Bank has also agreed to a $1.8 billion criminal penalty. Combined with civil enforcement actions announced today by other agencies, the United States will be imposing a total of approximately $3 billion against TD Bank. TD Bank created an environment that allowed financial crime to flourish. By making its services convenient for criminals, it became one. Today, TD Bank became the largest bank in U.S. history to plead guilty to Bank Secrecy Act program failures and the first bank in history to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit money laundering. This is also the largest ever penalty under the Bank Secrecy Act and the first time the Justice Department has assessed a daily fine against a bank. As part of the plea agreement, TD Bank will fundamentally restructure its corporate compliant program at its U.S.-based bank, which is the 10th largest in the United States. The bank has also agreed to the imposition of a 3-year monitorship and a 5-year term of probation. While the bank has started its remediation, it will continue to remediate and improve its anti-money laundering compliance program to ensure that the bank operates lawfully and safely moving forward.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit more information than what was said there because this is a pretty huge story because it also talks about TD Bank, how they were involved with the cartel. Let's bring up this article here from CBS News. TD Bank to pay $3 billion after breaking U.S. money laundering rules. Again, it is a bank, a freaking bank. The more I read about this stuff, the more I think maybe James Brown was right. I'll tell you about that in a second. TD Bank will pay more than $3 billion in penalties after admitting that it failed to adequately guard against money laundering as well as violations of the Bank Secrecy Act, federal authorities said on Thursday. But let's get to the juicy part. TD Bank is the 10th largest bank in the U.S., and they failed to take action despite government regulators and the company's own internal auditors repeatedly pointing to potential issues with its procedures to detect suspicious transactions. This is what the agency has said. Between January 2014 and October 2023, TD Bank failed to monitor $18.3 trillion in customer activity, leading to extensive money laundering. Now let's see where that money went. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see where the money went, fam. Laundering drug money. In one scheme that lasted for more than 3 years, criminals gave TD Bank workers gift cards worth more than $57,000 to ensure the employees would process their transactions, including suspicious cash deposits in excess of $10,000. In another incident, a TD Bank employee in 2021 helped launder narcotics proceeds in exchange for bribes. Highlight this. A TD Bank employee in 2021 helped launder narcotics proceeds in exchange for bribes. There is so much corruption in this country. I mean, it's a bank. It's a bank. And I'm gonna tell you something else about this bank in a minute. Sorry, there's something hanging there. But it's It's a bank that obviously can't be trusted. And people have had their suspicions about banks, and it does remind me of what James Brown said. So Eddie Murphy made this statement a while back, and he said that he had a conversation with James Brown when he was first becoming big in Hollywood. And Eddie Murphy said that James Brown told him, when you get your money, take your money and bury it in the ground. Not kidding you. Like, I laughed when I heard Eddie Murphy say that, but he said, take your money and bury your money in the ground. He said that way they can't take your money. And I was like, who's they? And I'm pretty sure Eddie Murphy was wondering too, who's they, James? But it sounds like James Brown just did not trust the banks. So what? He goes on to say here, this is crazy. The worker opened numerous accounts, including for shell companies that allowed bad actors to funnel millions of dollars through the bank. Typical money laundering here. But a bank basically working alongside the cartel? Ay, ay, ay. Crazy stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Crazy stuff. Tia says, can't blame him for not trusting the banks. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Oh my God. So the Justice Department said that they have charged 2 TD Bank employees in connection with the schemes. As part of the settlement, TD Bank will pay a fine of $1.8 billion to the Justice Department, $1.3 billion to FinCEN, and $450 million to the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, which regulates the money. So here's the thing. After all of this, it still sounds like TD Bank is going to be able to stay in business. Like, it doesn't sound like, they're shutting them down or anything like that. So there's that. And then I wonder about this, because as soon as I heard TD Bank, I thought about, but what about the TD Garden? Yeah, for those of us that live here in Massachusetts, there's the TD Garden, right? The TD Garden right here. This is where the Celtics and the Bruins play. It's owned by TD Bank. It's owned by the bank. Check this out. TD Bank in Delaware North extend the TD Garden naming rights through 2045. Now, this was reported in 2023 that they were going to extend the naming rights through 2045. And I'm just thinking about what just happened with TD Bank. And I'm wondering, are we going to keep this name? Are we going to keep it? Dwayne says TD Garden because they are sponsored by the bank. There you go. So, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that the name has changed. The name used to be at one point Boston Gardens, and it's the TD Bank, even though a lot of us, TD Garden, a lot of us just call it the Garden. But I'm wondering, because of the embarrassment here with TD Bank, I mean, it's not like, oh, TD Bank, they couldn't account for money. It's TD Bank was laundering money and work with the cartel. So I wonder if they're going to change the name. But I want to show you a little bit here about this agreement here with them in Delaware North, because I thought this was interesting. Delaware North, the owner and operator of TD Garden, Boston's premier sports and entertainment arena, together with the venue's naming rights partner, TD Bank, America's most convenient bank. It was convenient, all right. So convenient that the cartel was able to get a part of it. Oh my God. This is bad. This is bad. It said they had announced a historic 20-year naming rights extension that keeps the beloved landmark and arena name as TD Garden through 2045. And here's an interesting part. TD Bank has been the exclusive naming rights partner of the storied Boston Garden arena since July 1st, 2005. The agreement was set to expire in 2025, but this early naming rights extension adds another 20 years to the existing relationship. In addition, TD Bank has renewed its status as the official bank of the Boston Bruins through 2045. Let me highlight this part. Financial terms of the deal will not be disclosed. Might be time to disclose those financial terms. Oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, that was one of the things that I thought about when I saw this story. I was like, wait, like, aren't they the same people that own the TD Garden where the Bruins and the Celtics play? And a lot of concerts are at the TD Garden. Like I've seen a number of concerts there. And it makes me think about some things. And I'm just like, I don't know, like I saw The Weeknd there. I saw the Backstreet Boys there. I saw New Kids on the Block there. And now it's just the name. I don't know. Now, here's the thing that I want you to think about. So they are ordering TD Bank to pay billions, but they're not arresting anybody. And this is something I've pointed out again about the government and the Justice Department. They don't arrest these bankers. And we saw this in 2008 during the housing crisis. You know, I mean, yeah, they had them testify. They had bankers testify, but they didn't throw any of them in jail. So the bankers get another day to win. So this is something that I always like to point out to people, right? Because people will see it and they'll declare this as a win and they'll say, well, the Justice Department did a good thing and they went after them. But they're looking at the minimum. And the reality is that they're not arresting and jailing any of those bankers. Because let's be real, it's not like, oh, one employee did this, another employee did that, and nobody knew anything. We're talking what billions? They said, well, no, they said trillions of dollars. We're talking, they said trillions of dollars. So how do you not account for trillions of dollars and nobody knows? Come on. That's a wild story. So if you just joined, this was a big one. TD Bank to pay $3 billion after breaking U.S. money laundering rules. Pew. Ay. Crazy stuff. Maybe James Brown was right. Put your money in the ground. Mike HW said, don't forget the Wells Fargo scam. Exactly. That's another one. Again, they're not jailing any bankers. Dwayne says TD Bank and HSBC. In 2012, HSBC Holdings, one of the world's largest global banks, was hit with a $1.9 billion fine for most notably serving as a conduit for Mexican drug cartels. Like it just, the world's on fire said, I closed my TD Bank account when I found out they had a hand in funding DAPL. Ooh. FM says no punishment, no changes in behavior. Yeah, that's a big one. Pluto's Moon said NKOTB Sabs, that's bad, but you saw Vanilla Ice. Oh man, we're going back. Old school. What is it, Social Danny? Sabby got the musical taste of a white teenage girl from 10 years ago. Hey, nostalgia. So a lot of people there. Ashura says, okay, now go after the banks of 2007. Exactly. But they'll go after the bankers because those bankers testified, but they didn't find them guilty. They weren't arrested, you know? Thank you, Cowpoke, for the super chat. As a Black man, I never bought the Obama grift. I saw what he was in 2007, slick. Corporate liar with a good smile. I was called the most vulgar names you can think of for it, but ended up being correct. Well, you know what, Cowpoke? You were ahead of a lot of us. That's for sure. Thank you, Janice. How many of the bank officers / owners are going to jail? That's what I'm saying. When are they breaking it up? Fines are useless. They can be written off as a business expense. Yes, crazy, man. Mima, I had a mother-in-law who just passed at 92. I'm sorry to hear that. She hid her money in gold, etc., in the walls. No joke. Yeah, I've heard of stories about this before where this is something that people have done like in the past, like hiding their money in other places and not trusting the bank. Eric Gray says James Brown and MJ knew what they were doing in terms of handling business. Interesting. Thank you, Shawa. Does anyone remember when JP Morgan had a ship seized that had 1.3 billion in cocaine on board in 2019? I did not know about that one. Although JP Morgan has had their share of troubles recently. Thank you, Epstein. Titty Bank, sign me up. TD Bank, TD. You guys got jokes tonight. Thank you, Trusting Success. Aren't most US and proxy wars basically money laundering schemes? I guess you could say that. That's a good point. Skylar goes, they're not going to change the name. They know people will forget in a week. Thanks, Marvin. TD paid $3 billion. How much money did they make? That's a good question. Good question.